It's Misha, and today I'm going to focus on the totality of insulin resistance, what insulin does, why it's a problem, how we can get over it. Then I'm going to give you some solutions, the ones I've found and some others even. And I'm going to drop a really shocking bomb that is got my world rocked a little bit this morning about all of this. And then we'll answer some questions. If you guys have questions, you see all the things up there. That's a short list of what insulin resistance links into. But in the meantime, welcome in. If you don't know me, I'm just a woman who got really sick. Yes, I worked in medical. Yes, I like to do research and I have a brain that functions pretty darn well, but I got sick. And when my doctors couldn't help me, I started trying to find answers on my own. Eventually, I stumbled on a protocol that helped me overcome my insulin resistance and a number of the issues related to it. And so now I'm here sharing that information because if I worked for doctors and had doctors telling me there was nothing they could do for me, and I'm now off of 13 different medications. I'm not on any prescribed medications. If I could achieve that, and if I had that experience, what's happening to the rest of y'all who don't have that access to your doctors and whatnot, and who are still getting the same answers as me? So I'm trying to help bring information to people. That's all I'm doing. I'm just a real person like you guys. I am not a doctor, a nutritionist. I'm not prescribing anything. I'm not going to diagnose anyone. I'm just telling you the links so you can start to put the pieces together for yourself like I did. All right. Can we agree on that? And then welcome in. You guys, I'm up in Maryland in the US. However, I work with people all around the world. I love these people that come in and ask for likes and views on their dance videos. Blocked. They don't get through. Okay, so we're gonna dive in. Before I dive in with what I think I need to say, is there something that you guys want to hear about? Is there a burning question you have that you'd like answered about this whole thing? Otherwise, I'll just kind of start to dive in and we'll take it down the road of things like what's causing the insulin resistance, what insulin really does in your body, how are you getting glucose used when you're fasting if insulin's not present, all of that stuff. So I'm going to dive in and then you guys ask questions along the way. If I can, I'll stop. Sometimes it gets to be so many questions I miss some, so please remember, if I don't see a question, it's not that I don't want to answer it, it's that maybe I just didn't see it, or something like that. So ask again. And if you be respectful to me, I'll be respectful to you. How about that? So, all right, insulin resistance. We've been hearing a lot about it, right? I worked in medical for years. I worked in a weight loss and a hormone clinic. We never talked about insulin. It was never like all of the meetings that I sat in with Big Pharma. Yep, we had many dinners and many meetings with many reps from Big Pharma. Not once did they talk about this thing called insulin resistance. This was not anything that they presented about, taught about, talked about, any of that. And why? When we understand, and we're going to get into this, when we understand that insulin resistance and all of the stuff is really related to the food that we're eating, and that it's a dietary disorder, and that we're in a bad modern food environment, the medications are not needed. So why would they educate us on that when instead they could sell us a medication? People always ask the FDA. Let's talk. Oh, no, I'll talk about the FDA later. Let's dive into insulin resistance. There's so much I want to say. Okay, so what's happening to us is we have this modern food environment that's imperfect. Can we all agree? If you guys think that our modern food environment is imperfect and drastically changed from what it was in the last 50 years, put a 1 in. If you think there's nothing wrong with our food today, put a 2 in the comments. I just want to see where we're at here. Because it's causing, yeah, yep, 1. So you guys, our food, we all know, can we all agree that our food has been changed? It's not the same. I'm almost 60 years old. I grew up on a small farm in North Idaho. I saw what our food was like when we had organic, raw food that we grew, and it wasn't this supersized food that we have in the grocery store, right? We didn't have as many packaged and boxed foods, and we didn't have this keto bread and this low gluten this and this, all this stuff. And by the way, those gluten-free breads have tapioca starch in them, and they're worse for your insulin than the gluten is. amazing, right? So if you're having a gluten problem, I'm going to ask you to understand that maybe it has everything to do with what's going on in your gut. And that if you fix that, your sensitivities to gluten, like their sensitivities to many environmental and foodborne things, are may just start to get better. Now, if you have Crohn's or you may it may be different for you, right? I'm not This is not a broad sweeping, but like I had a sensitivity, and I fixed my gut, and now I don't have that sensitivity. I also worked in an allergy clinic, so I have a little understanding of a lot of this stuff. Okay, so insulin resistance. We know our food is bad. We know our food is different. We know we're not getting the same food we used to. Even when we're eating whole fruits and vegetables, we're not getting what we used to. Between the modification of our food and enzymes and fibers being stripped out and not rotating our crops, now we're lower on vitamins and minerals by 50% for some of them. Our food just does not give us the nutrition we need. I'm going to be talking about fiber, and we're going to talk about it really frankly in a little bit here, okay? Because it is something we need. Is it an essential nutrient? Nope. Sorry, it's not. It's not, but it's the cornerstone of what I do, right? Yeah, it is. And we're just going to discover all of that too. So if the cause of insulin resistance is this, that we're eating too much food, and we're eating imperfect food, and we're eating too often, then we have a baseline for what's going on. Does anybody think that we're having a shortage in our body of Ozempic, Mounjaro, or tirzepatide, or any of those drugs? Is that what's making us sick? If you believe that we're short of a medication like those in our body and that's what's making us sick, put a 1 in the comment. If you think that those medications are just masking symptoms and not really teaching people, put a 2 in the comments. I'd like to know. We're going to dig into that later too. So if we're eating food, then why is this all happening? Without the fiber wrapped around the carbohydrates that we're eating, if that's been stripped, now, thank you guys. I'm glad. Yay. I mean, that was kind of a loaded question, right? It was a very loaded question. But if we have food that's converting into glucose in our system too rapidly, how did that happen? It simply became, I'll try to do that. I actually have been thinking about it. You guys, my life has been crazy, and I apologize. I have not been putting out videos like I should. I have a bunch in the queue. I just haven't had them edited. And that's kind of my focus this weekend, is to get a bunch more up. But I will do one on Ozempic, us not being short of Ozempic shortage. Now, there's a lot of doctors out there. Can I talk about this before we get back into, while my mind is on it? There's a lot of doctors out there. I spent some time, just kind of browsing through TikTok and through YouTube and some other places. And there's a lot of doctors who are tearing apart those of us who are talking against Ozempic. But from the other side, what I want you to understand is those same doctors, do you know where their education is coming from? Their education is coming from a system that's driven by pharma. Most of the educational books are either backed by, subsidized by big food or big pharma. So if that's the case, and what our doctors are being taught, and look, I had 2 family members who worked for big pharma. They knew more about the medications and some of the diseases and disorders than the doctors I worked for did. But they were very specifically educated by their pharma company about the view they wanted them to take on it. That's what our world is inundated with, is this view that's driven by this money-making thing by big pharma and big food, and they're together. And so there's a little conspiracy theory stuff going on, but not really, because there's a lot of trails behind that. But let's get back to insulin, and we'll talk about the big pharma thing later. So if our food has been drastically changed and it's turning into glucose too quickly, the primary hormone that gets glucose into our cells, which is glucose is just energy in the body, is insulin. So there's a number of things, and I am going to do a video on some of the causes of insulin resistance, because it's not always high levels of sugar. High levels of sugar is the biggest driver of insulin resistance. That's why I focus on it. There are so many other things we can do to start helping it, but we have to take care of the big elephant in the room, and that is the glucose, the sugar in our system. So if our food is turning into glucose too quickly, the biggest driver of that with our fruits and vegetables is that the food industry stripped our food fiber, because when fiber is present in a food, it makes it more dense, it makes it more crunchy, it makes it a little bit more bitter, it's harder to chew, it's not as palatable as food without all the fiber in it. But what happens is now you're getting all the glucose without the thing that God, the creator, the universe put in there to help you regulate the delivery of that sugar into your system. So with this overload of sugar in the system, and we're only supposed to have about 1 teaspoon of glucose in our entire blood system. So think about head to toe, all the little tiny capillaries, all the veins, everything in your system. There can only be about 1 teaspoon of that in your system before things start to go wrong. When your body senses that, because the food we eat is converting so quickly, it goes, hey, pancreas, an organ that produces both glucose or glucagon and insulin. We're going to talk about glucagon in a minute. So insulin then gets produced, and its job is its primary job. This is the job I talk about all the time, but insulin has some other jobs. And I want to be frank. I'm going to we're just going to strip back the curtain. We're going to talk about all the stuff, right? And insulin's primary job is to deliver that glucose to the cells. Every cell in your body has insulin receptors, and it's just like a lock and key thing. So when insulin gets to the cell, it opens up the cell so the cell can take in the glucose, and that's what it uses for energy. The primary energy for your brain is glucose. Okay, so the primary energy, not building block, but energy for your muscles is glucose. So insulin is like that lock and key thing that's opening the cell up to receive the insulin. But when we have too much insulin in our system all the time, because we're eating every 2 hours, we're snacking between meals, we're drinking fruit juices and smoothies, and I'm going to dive into that later, and we're just eating food that's imperfect, now we have so much sugar that it's like insulin, instead of being one queen's guard, it's like this whole troop of guards running around trying to get this glucose into the cells, and the cells are like, oh, you're overwhelming me, I don't want you, we're not taking you in, we're not doing this today, and they start to shut down, or that lock gets rusty, and now the cells are not opening up to the glucose. So you have brain fog, you have anxiety, you have depression, you have a number of other things going on throughout the whole body. Okay, so thank you guys. I am reading your comments, so let's stop and deal with some of the comments before I go on. So we stopped at insulin is overwhelming the cells and they're starting to shut down, right? Just remind me of that in a second, because sometimes I get off track. The more we chew, the more digest it. Exactly, Heather. That's so perfect, because I was just talking about this yesterday. When we're going to get back to fruit juices, and I'm going to write this down, chewing, you guys, we have created foods that don't require us to chew and use our jaws. It's not just about the enzymes. I want to talk about the jaw health and what dentists are seeing happening with our jaw and the deterioration of our jaw and our teeth, because we're not chewing food like we should. We need to have that action to be able to take time. And besides the enzymes, besides the gum and jaw health, it's slowing down the delivery of the food into your system. So it's not just like packing it in all at once and your body's not freaking out because of all this stuff coming in. We're chewing, we're taking some time to eat. Instead of 5 minutes to eat a meal, we should be taking 20 minutes to eat a meal, right? And we're not. So, yeah, so there are big intersections. Thank you. There are big intersections between big food and big pharma. You guys, if you research that, you'll see it. Some of the families are very much the same on both sides. So big food feeds you, makes you sick. Big pharma still benefits by giving you medications. And so you wonder why there's this big draw towards Ozempic and Mounjaro and whatnot. Why not? Keep eating all that food that's making you sick. We're not going to educate you that food that our brother over here is selling you is making you sick. We're just going to give you a medication. And hey, big brother over there that made you sick, good job, because now we got them over here and we're taking their money. And we're getting them medications that are going to cause them to need more medications that are going to cause other problems. So that's my view on it. All right, so let's go back. So we were at where insulin is now inundated the cells or overwhelmed the cells, and the cells are like, I can't do this anymore. That's a Maria, you're going to have to talk to your doctor about that. I am not a doctor, so I can't deal with. She said, "What do I do if my jaw has a problem?" For which she's been advised to chew less. So yeah, that's not my specialty. I'm sorry, but I can't answer that one. All right, so that's one. Delivering energy to the cells is one action of insulin. Okay, but I want you to understand there are other actions for insulin. Insulin happens to help with protein synthesization. I can't say it. And then it also helps with enzymes that are helping break down your food. It's helping with, I had to write down, it's helping with, fluid retention. I know this one. And amino acids and potassium utilization. Without insulin, some of those other actions aren't happening also. So I always focus on the glucose insulin action, right? But what we need to understand is with this inundation of glucose, shutting down the insulin receptors, now we're having problems with protein metabolism. We're having problems with amino acids and potassium. We're having problems with fluid retention or excretion. We're having a number of other problems because those same cells are resistant to insulin's other actions, not just the glucose delivery. So I'm sorry, my phone has been having horrible problems this morning. I'm not sure if it's the internet, and I've reset my phone, so I'm sorry that it's breaking up. I don't know what it sounds like over on Facebook and YouTube. Okay. So we're at this point where we're insulin resistant, right? Now what's happening is your body is producing more and more and more insulin to try and deal with this problem. It's like, oh, we got to get this delivered. So it's doing that. One of the other actions of insulin is fat storage. Okay, so, and it just happens that when the other cells won't take up the delivery that insulin's bringing, it takes it to the fat cells and it stores it. So insulin is a storage or a growth hormone. It doesn't want things to break down. And every time we eat and we're cueing it that we need more growth, we need more of that, our body is slowing down the receptance of it, but insulin is still there doing its job because you gave it a job to do. More importantly, the food that we're eating gave it the job to do. So what we need to do is get the insulin down to a normal level. Insulin is very important. I'm not saying we don't need it. I'm saying we have way too much of it. But when we're eating like this, now the insulin is present in our bloodstream all the time because it's trying to deal with the sugar. That constant high level of insulin causes insulin resistance. Insulin resistance ends up as prediabetes and diabetes. So if you have either one of those and Alzheimer's are direct relation to insulin resistance. Those are all end stage insulin resistance. So you don't want to get diabetes, you don't want to get Alzheimer's, deal with your insulin resistance now. We're going to talk about how to tell in just a few minutes, and we're going to do a whole lot of diving into just insulin resistance as a whole. Okay, do you guys give me a vote here because I can shut it down, try to reset my phone and come back in 2 minutes, or do you want me to try and continue? Or if it's glitching so bad that it's annoying, I can just shut it down and come right back as well. Just give me a second. Or if you want me to continue, let me know. So continue 1, shut down and come back 2. Okay, it's normal now. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening. There's some weird thing. Shut down 1. Okay, let's just shut down. I said shut down 1, right? Okay, I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna shut this down and we're gonna come right back. Hold on, guys. There's some. I hope it's not happening over there, but there does seem to be a problem with the live stream on this side over here. So we're going to shut that down, reset it, and then I'm going to go right back into the talk about insulin resistance. In the meantime, you have my attention. If you have questions about insulin resistance, all the stuff I'm talking about, let me know, and I'll try to address them while this phone is resetting. I'm not quite sure why it's breaking up so bad. Maybe I need to update it or something. I don't take very good care of my electronics. Okay. So good morning, by the way. Good Friday morning. I'm excited because today's the day I get my grandson, and so that's always a good day for me. In fact, um, he called me last night and he said, "Nana, you get me tomorrow." Yes, yes, sir, I do. Okay, we're gonna get back into insulin resistance. I'm gonna pop back on TikTok and see if we can handle this. Um, all right, we're about ready to go back live again. Um, Okay, you guys, I'm back. Hopefully it's working well. It does still seem to be lagging. Um, we might have to redo this whole talk on Monday or later today. I'll do the best I can right now. So we were at this point just a minute ago. We were talking about insulin resistance, how we become insulin resistant. We're eating food too often, that's converting into glucose too much, requiring too much insulin, and then the body becomes resistant to it, right? Now we're at this insulin resistance stage that ends up in diabetes or Alzheimer's. So if we understand that food is the problem, I'm going to say this again, is the lack of a medication the problem with insulin resistance? Are we deficient in a medication that's causing us to be insulin resistant? Or is it simply the food environment that we have that's causing the insulin resistance? So if you think that it's a lack of a medication, if we're deficient in a medication and that's why we're getting sick, put a 1 in. If you think that it has to do with the food and we need more education about the food and we need to understand what's happened to our food, put a 2 in. And then we're going to dive right back into this talk. Thank you to everyone who's jumping back in, and I hope that it's so much better now. So I'm Misha. We're going to talk about insulin resistance in all things. We're going to talk about fiber, and I'm going to say something that might shock y'all in just a minute. If you know me, it might shock you, but we're going to talk about it. I had to do some thinking about it this morning, and I always try to be honest and frank. So I'm going to continue that. I want you to be able to trust me. I want you to be able to understand that I'm doing the best I can to help you all and not just, just on my own agenda. I mean, it is kind of my own agenda because it's from my view. All right, let's dive back in. So what's happening with our food when we're eating a lot of carbohydrates is that our food has been stripped of fiber, and that's making us sick, right? So, but here's the thing, Rose. She says her cholesterol was high because she wasn't getting in enough fiber. What if I tell you fiber is not an essential nutrient? What? So I was shocked, right? So we have macronutrients. We have protein, we have fiber, and we have fats. I'm slowing down because I'm a little bit heartbroken. Um, Protein and fats are essential, right? Do you know that carbohydrates are not essential? That third macronutrient is not essential to our life. It just isn't. Protein and fats are, yes. If we understand that we can get carbohydrates from protein, then we might understand why everybody's saying carnivore, right? So what I want to talk about today, though, is if you're not doing carnivore and you don't choose to do carnivore, now what do? Now, if you're having those nutrients called carbohydrates, now fiber is essential. But in the big picture, fiber is not essential to us. It's only when we're adding those carbohydrates in, those just pure carbohydrates like fruits and vegetables, that fiber is essential. So if you choose to do carnivore, do you need that fiber? No. But if you're doing any kind of bread, grain, fruits, vegetables, yes. Okay. So what I'm talking about is the middle of the road approach. Not everybody is going to choose to go carnivore, right? And fiber is great for the gut microbiome, and I love it for those reasons. And I do it for those reasons. And I do a lot of fiber in a day for those reasons because I'm human and I like to have a Mounds, coconut and dark chocolate candy bar once in a while. And I like to have crackers with my goat cheese, and I like all of that stuff. So then I need fiber to help regulate that glucose, right? Um, contradictive. It's horrible, right? It's such a inflammatory statement. And as I heard the statement, and why I'm bringing it up this morning is I was listening to another podcast with Dr. Ben Bickman, my favorite metabolic scientist. Now, it is contradictory because he said if you're going to have carbohydrates, you want to have those whole fruits and vegetables and stay away from the boxed and labeled carbohydrates, right? If you're having carbohydrates, you need that fiber. But he was also talking about the fact that, and I'm shocked because Dr. Bickman also helped develop this fiber that I use, but he said it's not an essential nutrient. Can we live without it? Yeah. If we're living in a diet that doesn't have all the carbohydrates in it, then yeah, we can live without it. So carnivores who aren't getting fiber in, that's a whole different story. And I still gotta do some research on it because I'm telling you, it just broke my heart. I'm a big fiber advocate. Let's not get that twisted. I'm a big fiber advocate, knowing what it's done for my body, knowing what it's done for my GI tract, knowing what it's done for my health. I'm still a big fiber advocate, but I always want to be honest in what I'm finding and relay that as well. So you guys can make up your own minds. Um, I lean more towards carnivoristic food, but I had some chicken. My main meal last night was chicken breasts with some cream cheese, artichoke, and spinach in it. So there was some veggies in there, yeah, but it was primarily protein. Fiber does clean your gut. It does. I'm not saying it doesn't. And the thing is what's causing the dysbiosis in our gut are the sugars that we're getting in. That's the biggest cause of it. And those sugars are coming from the carbohydrates that we're getting because fiber has been stripped from them. So let's not get it twisted. I'm not telling you that I no longer believe in fiber. I'm not telling you that I don't use fiber myself daily. I'm not telling you any of that. I just want you to understand that the reason I'm such an advocate for fiber is because most of us most of us do not have a diet or a lifestyle where we can simply eat meat, right? And some people just would choose not to. So for the rest of the world who lives in a real world with carbohydrates around us and who enjoy them once in a while, like I love a croissant. It's my favorite bread product is a croissant. If I'm going to have a croissant, I better have some fiber, right? To slow down that blood sugar spike. If I never had the croissant, I might not have to be so fiber focused. Okay. So I'm not saying I don't believe in it because I still do 2 of these plus another fiber every day to help my gut that's overloaded from years and years of eating packaged and boxed foods. So let's get past that part. Yeah, processed foods. Well, no. Um, in today's world, you understand that our whole foods are often processed too. Fiber has been stripped from your whole foods. You're not getting the nutrients that you used to get in the whole foods. They're not as nutrient dense. So when we talk about supplements and why people are supplementing, it's because we're not getting the same nutrients from our food that we used to 50 years ago. I talked about that earlier when I was on about crop rotation and just the modification of our foods. So the gut issues come from the processed foods, right? So there's chemicals that can cause gut issues. There's all of that. You know that every time you have a surgery or an injury, it can cause gut issues and inflammation in the gut. Mm-hmm. So modification of your foods is stripping nutrients and fiber and enzymes from your foods too. So I'm having a conversation here. I forget sometimes, you guys. He says fiber cleans your gut. He says gut issues come from too much processed foods, and process involves deadly chemicals. Um, no, because when you cut up a head of broccoli and cook it, that still is processed. That still is a process. So I'm going to leave that right now. We're going to go back to the whole insulin talk. So if we have insulin resistance and it's because we're eating too much food that's imperfect and it's been stripped of fibers, yes, that's the number one clue to come back to this whole thing. I do want you to understand though, because I had some questions myself. I'm like, you talk about this stuff all the time. You talk about how when you were in a fasted state, your glucose levels are rising and falling, and yet your insulin levels aren't going up because your ketone levels aren't going up. All the thoughts that go on in my head all day long, you guys, it's a big mess in there. And so I'm like, why is that? If I'm saying that insulin is the transport for glucose, why is it in a fasted state when my body's breaking down those glycogen molecules that are just molecules of glucose bonded together from the liver and getting them back into the bloodstream for energy? Why isn't my insulin going up? Well, because there's back doors to getting insulin into your system. Insulin is not the only way that your body can take up that glucose energy. Um, So Allie says free. I would love to have a conversation with you. You know, there's people who, when I say adrenal fatigue, it drives them crazy too. So the truth is that the receptors in your body can become resistant to insulin. And that comes from a metabolic scientist who is not a nutritionist, but someone who studies the metabolism and the actions in the body. Very different than what a nutritionist studies. Sorry, but that's the truth. So where was I? We were talking about fiber. We were talking about insulin resistance. Oh, yes. Insulin resistance, also, those receptors can be damaged in your body. Glucose is the biggest thing. No, I was talking about. So you have these other things, these other receptors. They're proteins in your body called GLUT1 and GLUT4. GLUT1 is in all of your tissues, and it can allow glucose into your cells. GLUT4 is predominantly present in your fat cells and your muscle cells. So in a fasted state, when glucose is being broken down out of your fat cells and out of your liver, and it turns into glucose, the glycogen and the glucose is being, the fat's being broken down, it turns back into glucose in your bloodstream. How it's getting there without insulin, without external sugar coming in, is those receptors of GLUT4 and GLUT1. So sugar is getting into the cells. So if you're doing it properly, you are not losing muscle cells. You actually lose more muscle when you're insulin in an insulin resistant or overfed insulin state than you are when you're fasting if you're doing it correctly. Okay, so we're going to talk about some of that as much as I can. Well, insulin resistance is real. Oh, so here's the thing. Allie, when I talk about all of this stuff up here, I'm not saying that insulin resistance is the cause of everything, but it's certainly linked. We have people, and I had to do some research on it, right? We have people who had psoriatic flares who started getting their insulin resistance under control with the system I use, which is a tea and a pre-meal drink made up of AJ. I don't know why I was reading Allie. AJ, I'm so sorry. Um, but their psoriatic flares calm down. Insulin resistance exacerbates a number of other issues. There are genetic things that we have, and oftentimes insulin resistance is the switch that turns it on. It doesn't mean that insulin resistance, or that I'm ever saying that insulin resistance is the cause of all of it. I'm saying that getting the insulin under control can help you with everything else. And you haven't heard me talk before, so this is fine because we can have this talk this morning. But what I talk about is getting the elephant out of the room. And this is from a personal story of I had almost all of those things up there, and I was going to the doctor, and the doctor is looking at this piece, and they're looking at that piece, and they're looking at that piece, and they're looking at that piece, and they're overwhelmed. And then they kind of give like, I don't know what to do with you. And we've run all the blood work and we've done all the stuff and we just can't figure it out. So here's a medication, here's a medication. I ended up on 13 different medications, getting sicker and sicker and sicker. I started addressing my diabetes, which is end-stage insulin resistance, and all of those symptoms started to get better. Now, I'm also very frank about the fact that I still have some issues. Like I still, my thyroid is more normal than it's ever been. but it still is an energy use issue for me. I have no gallbladder because of my insulin resistance. I have a number of other things that I'm still trying to clean up after 40 years in my body of having insulin resistance. So those things start to get better. Is being insulin sensitive going to cure my ADHD or my autism? No, but it will certainly help me not be as sensitive to stimuli when I don't have these other actions that insulin causes going on in my body. That's where I link all of this to. And I'm not ever saying somebody shouldn't go see the doctor about some of those things. But what I am saying is let's take care of the insulin first. See what happens, see what's actually bothering you at that point. Now, it's not only beneficial to you, but it's beneficial to your doctor because your doctor's not chasing 1,000 different avenues. That elephant's not sitting on the big clue that they need to see. So get the elephant out of the room, and the doctors can focus on what may be left over and what they really need to address instead of being inundated by all of these symptoms that are just being exacerbated by insulin resistance. That's what I'm talking about. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that puts us more on a little bit of a level playing field here, and that you understand me a little better. Okay, so I don't know if any of this stuff is interesting to anyone but me, but I just have this mind that's like, well, you're talking about sugar, you're talking about how your glucose levels are going up and down even in a fasting stage, you're talking about insulin and da 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 da, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, how is all this stuff happening? So I look at this, and yeah, I find it interesting too. Okay, so when I heard Dr. Bickman this morning say that fiber is not an essential nutrient, you guys, I want you to know my heart broke a little. It broke a lot, a lot, a lot. But I also had to come to the realization that he also in the same podcast talked about having fruits and vegetables in and the importance of fiber when we're eating those. So we're going to go back to that. And that's where most of us are, right? So you guys get to choose how you're going to live your life and eat. If you're getting carbohydrates in, you need to get fiber in. Alan, this is not here for that. Okay. So, interesting that somebody who does dance videos comes on a talk about our health. Yep. What topic do you want me to stay on? I know I jump around a lot. That's my brain. You guys should feel what it's like in my brain. So when we're talking about insulin resistance and the sugar and the uptake and all of that, okay. So how to over it? We're just going to focus on that. How do we get more insulin sensitive in that state? This is why fiber is important. Pick one. I answer questions, and that's what gets me off topic. So we're gonna talk about how to become more insulin sensitive if you're having a normal daily diet, and it's not medications because we're not deficient in a medication, and it's certainly not eating more carbohydrates. It's the reverse. We got to keep the carbohydrate count down, and if we're eating carbohydrates, we need to focus on whole foods, not boxed and label foods. Okay, are all of us going to do that all the time? No. Look, Janelle, if you want to do the carnivore diet, do the carnivore diet. I have something that I'm doing that helps me because I'm interested in the carnivore diet. Am I at the point where I want to do it? Not yet. No. So, fiber, if it's been stripped out of our foods and we're not getting it, and you understand that even getting the normal amounts of fruits and vegetables on your plate is not giving you the fiber you need, then we're going to have to supplement. Okay. If you juice them, when you juice vegetables, you're stripping the fiber away. You need to understand that. When you're juicing fruit, this is why fruit juice and orange juice and apple juice and stuff are so bad for you, because now you have some nutrients in there for sure, but you have a lot of sugar and no fiber to regulate the usage of the sugar. So nope, you're getting less fiber in when you juice. So that question, all right, so we're going to talk about it. The system, I'm going to talk about the system I use real quick, and then we're going to go back to all these. I don't know a lot about the carnivore diet because that's not my specialty. So the question was, is the carnivore diet the old Dr. Stillman diet? Not an expert on that, so I couldn't tell you. Yeah. So if you're taking the skins away and if you're juicing and pulling all the pulp out, the pulp is the fiber. Okay. So what I do is a tea. This is a yerba mate tea, but it's like 375 times more potent in chlorogenic acids than any standard bagged yerba mate tea. Plus, it's been stripped of the carcinogens, the PAHs that have to happen when we roast this tea, and environmental toxins that the other teas are not getting out. So it's a super potent form of yerba mate, high in every essential vitamin and nutrient that we need. The Argentinians use it daily. Their soccer team takes pounds upon pounds upon pounds of this in when they compete. This is what they use. It gives you energy. It gives you mental clarity. It helps you with satiety so you're not hungry all the time. It works on receptors in the brain and in the gut. Dr. Huberman talked about it. It's in my tab on TikTok called The Tea. So you can listen to Dr. Huberman talk about some of the benefits of this. And when he's talking about it, he's talking about the normal bag tea. This is super potent. It's what I'm drinking now. I do this in combination with some intermittent fasting. Then I do this, which is the fiber part. Most of us are only getting in 10 to 15 grams of fiber. And if we're eating carbohydrates, we need to get in more 30 to 40 for the best gut health, right? And I know there's like doctors on one side who say we don't need it. There's doctors on another side who say we do. So I'm in the middle of the road. I like my fiber. This is what I do. So if you want to get it, you go to my profile link. You tap on my picture up here. The white box comes up below. It'll take you to my profile page. Then you're just going to go to the top tab and order. There's even a video in there that tells you exactly how to order it when you go to my profile page, the first video. High calorie but low vitamins. So AJ, I want to talk about that too in just a minute. Okay. So this is what my day looks like. I'm in a fasted state right now. My dinner was about 7 p.m. last night. It's 9. So I'm 14 hours into a 16-hour fast. Okay. So I'm drinking my tea. Does not break my fast, does not spike my insulin. When you take carbohydrates in through a dietary source, your insulin level goes up. I'm staying insulin sensitive now at 14 hours. We're going to go over why all of that in a little bit if anybody wants to know why the fasting works, the intermittent fasting. In about 2 hours, if I want to have a meal, which I probably will, I'm going to focus on a few nutrients. But when I do eat, I'm going to have this, which gives me 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers. It gives me a panel of vitamins and minerals that are specifically put in for your metabolism. And it has phytosterols that are helping with heart health and cholesterol. So this is helping, and the system has a 90-day money back guarantee to help with A1C, blood glucose, and your lipid panel, or you get your money back. But they believe in it so much, like I do, that they now give a 90-day satisfaction guarantee. But give it 90 days. This is not a medication. It's a food product that's the food and heal yourself with the proper tools. Okay. So we're just putting back what we are deficient in our food. 30 to 40 grams of fiber per day is what was on the NIH website. So if you're high in calories and low in vitamins and minerals, then you're probably eating a lot of packaged foods and not getting in enough whole foods. I eat packaged foods too. But the packaged part of my kitchen is a cabinet that's about this wide. Okay. Um, yeah. Well, I do have like frozen berries and frozen corn, and corn is high in carbohydrates, so it's actually a grain. But I do have some frozen vegetables because otherwise it goes bad in my fridge too often. But my fridge is my biggest storage of my food products. I have very little in cabinets. Thank you. She finds you find what I'm discussing extremely interesting. So if you find me on YouTube or on Facebook, and it's Brilliant Health with Misha, you'll be able to see play of this in a little different format, but still the same information later if you want to go back and watch it, plus all of the lives I do every day, Monday through Friday. So that's what I do, you guys, is a tea in the morning, a pre-meal drink before I eat anything, and that's it. Now, do I play with some other fasting and stuff? Yes, I do, because I have extreme concerns with my health that I want to take care of. Am I going to say that this system is going to cure all the ailments I have? No, I'm not. I would never say that. But has it helped everything? Even my ADD and my autism, yes, it's helped tremendously with those things. Okay. Can you have insulin resistance with normal glucose levels? Thank you for the question, Anita. So here we go. And let's talk about that. But I do want to answer this. Is there a way to have a short one-on-one conversation? Yes, there is. When you guys, let's take a look at my link, and I want to show you a couple of things before you run out the door. I have short one-on-one conversations with people all the time, and I'm going to show you how to get there. If I can get myself there. We're going to back up. I'm still moving my office. You guys just saw the mess in my house here. Okay. So if you go to my profile here I'm trying to get there, guys, but I have a couple of things happening over here. If you go to that, it's not just it's not just a sales page. Sorry for the. You're going to get to this page right here, right? Yours is going to look white. Right under my picture here, you're going to see these red lights. Click on this link. That link is going to take you to my landing page. Okay. And so there's all of these things in here. The system I use, those on order, it's right here. If you have a short one-on-one conversation, go right here to contact me on WhatsApp and send me a message, and I will respond. So you guys, I'm going to ask this. I love when people use that link, but please understand I'm on the phone or in conferences or doing learning or whatever all the time. So I cannot always just answer the phone right when a call comes in. Text me and even better, send me times that are best for you to talk, and I will get back to you. Okay. And then now let's get back to questions. I hope that helps answer. If you can have, and I love having these short one-on-one conversations, whether you choose to do what I'm doing or not. I do like to have one-on-one conversations with people. Okay, so with normal glucose levels and with normal blood ranges. So Rose, I want to get back to that. That's exactly where we were. So yes, you can. And here's let's talk about insulin resistance again a little bit, okay? So when we're having insulin resistance, your blood glucose isn't going up yet because you have a lot of insulin in your system and it's delivering that package to some cells. When we talk about insulin resistance, it's not just that every cell is resistant to it. Some cells are taking up excess, some cells are not taking it in, and one of the cells that take in a lot of it, some of them, are your fat, and especially in your liver. So now you're getting a fatty liver. So watch your liver profiles on your blood panel. And if you're gaining weight, your Gabby message. Let me see if I can type this in, and if TikTok doesn't doesn't bar me, you guys, I get in trouble every once in a while. Text me there and I will send you the link. Okay. Liver meant. Okay. Oh, yeah, I just put the number in. And you guys, it's on my links everywhere. So if you go to my YouTube page, you'll find the links there. You'll even find like a QR code that you can scan and get that same page on Facebook or on YouTube. So you might have to do, if it's not loading here, it's usually because of your phone needs to be, your cache needs to be cleared or something. Okay. So the link is working. No, we go through this almost every day, and for most people it's working, for some people it doesn't. Let's go back to normal blood ranges, normal glucose ranges. So what's happening is, in an insulin resistant state, you are still getting some usage of that glucose. So it's not necessarily the glucose that's going up in your bloodstream. This happened to me. I was having all of these symptoms, and people kept saying, have your blood work done, have your blood work done, check your blood sugars. My blood sugars were normal. I was like, nope, I'm a picture of health. My blood sugars are normal, my A1C is normal, my lipids are normal, everything is normal. And they were until they weren't. Once it hit that tipping point, then they started going bad really quickly. So in my TikTok profile, you guys, there is a tab called How to Tell. And as I do more and more videos on that, I'm not going to reach back and find all the old ones, but as I do redo some of those videos, they're going to go in that tab. So right now in that tab are two different calculations you can use based on the current blood work you have to give you an indicator if you're insulin resistant or not. There's also a test you can have run called a HOMAIR, or homeostatic model something of insulin resistance. But that test in itself is not enough to really tell if you're insulin resistant. So there's a calculation in that tab that will tell you using your blood work if you're insulin resistant. But better yet, if you're having more than two of these symptoms, you just start addressing the food that you're eating and understand that that's probably the cause of your insulin resistance. So my blood work was all normal, looked like a picture of health until it started going bad. But by then, we estimate I had been insulin resistant for almost 40 years. I had a head injury at age 15, which head injuries can cause your brain to start becoming resistant to insulin. Now it starts to set that path off. And then you're eating foods that are high in sugar. And yes, in my college years, I drank. And so all that alcohol starts adding up, right? My blood work looked great, but I had all these symptoms. So yeah, you can absolutely have insulin resistance and symptoms. So what I'm going to invite everyone to understand is, for one takeaway today, is start paying attention to your symptoms. The doctors oftentimes are just looking at your blood work, but you need to combine symptoms with the blood work to get a whole overall picture. And let's talk about this. If insulin resistance is being food borne and we're just addressing our diet and giving our guts the fiber it needs to balance the microbiome, giving our bodies the nutrition it needs to do what it's supposed to do, it doesn't really require a medication or any extensive workup to know that you're getting your health back. And you know what's shocking when we talk about, and I'm not trying to bastardize doctors. I worked for doctors that I thought were amazing. I worked for doctors that I thought were asses. I worked for doctors that I thought were really, out there looking for new answers. And I worked for doctors that thought that they just knew everything with the knowledge they had and they were good. But I had some very common symptoms of heart attack for women. And yeah, my blood pressure was 180 over 150 every single day. Did I probably have a couple of small heart attacks that got missed? Who knows? But probably, because I was having a lot of acid reflux and I was losing feeling and usage of my right arm. Two common symptoms for women with heart problems, and every single doctor missed it. Everyone. Okay. When I started the system, my arm, all the neuropathy in that arm started to get better. I couldn't hold on to a cup like this before. It was bad. I had constant heartburn and reflux. I don't have those now. So is that heart problem the only cause of heartburn and reflux? No. But why is it a symptom of your heart as well as insulin resistance? It's the insulin resistance piece. 95% of high blood pressure comes from insulin resistance, and over 80% of cardiovascular disorders or distress comes from long-term high blood pressure. So you guys, we're going to continue the conversation Monday morning. I have tons of messages coming in from people that I said I would talk to this morning. Fibromyalgia, I want to address that really quickly. So Jay, I do want to answer this. Gallbladder is linked to insulin resistance. You had a test at 23 and was diagnosed with insulin resistance. You're currently 41. Follow me. Let's have some conversation. You can get a hold of me. Like when I say short conversation, I probably spent an hour on the phone with a lady the last day or so, just explaining all of her questions from my perspective. I'm not a doctor, can't diagnose, just can give you some information that then you can go figure out what you need to do for you. The one thing that worked for me though is the system that I used. Please go to my profile, try it. And here's the thing. Um, two things before I get to that part. You guys, I want to know what you want me to talk about on Monday. Is there something that you guys need to have answered that you would love for me to go over on Monday? Because I just saw PCOS, I just saw acid reflux, I just saw gallbladder. So is there something in specific, fibromyalgia, that you guys want me to go, okay, fibromyalgia, let's talk about that. What I will give you is this, and then Monday we're going to talk about it more in depth. What I'll give you is this. With insulin resistance, it's causing some misfiring of your nerve endings. So instead of going nerve to nerve, it's going outside the nerves and it's causing this phantom pain and neuropathy. Fibromyalgia is causing that pain throughout your body. It's not the only cause. There are some spinal injury causes that can cause fibromyalgia, but from a doctor's mouth in one of the clinics I worked at, fibromyalgia is just a symptom that they can't explain. So they've thrown this word fibromyalgia on it because they don't know how to treat it. And when it really is linked to insulin resistance. And vertigo is linked to insulin resistance as well. Neurological issues and how your body balances is very linked. So we can do neurology again next week and vertigo. By the way, I had vertigo so bad that it actually caused an accident, like totaled my car. And so vertigo was a bad, it was a horrible feeling. We'll talk about that in another one too. But yes, my vertigo is gone now. My necklace is orgonite with turquoise in it. Good for my throat and me expressing myself. So it's orgonite. And I am all into energetics too, just for those who don't know. Okay, you guys. So we're going to talk about fibromyalgia Monday, and then we'll talk about neurology and vertigo at some point during the week. Please follow along. Go through and find the videos. I know that I've been lagging on doing content that's worthy. I'm really trying to focus on getting back to that and sharing some stories from other people who have gotten through this as well. I will answer this question because that's important. Is yerba mate okay if you have kidney failure? Whew, this is a short answer to a long answer. Your kidney failure most likely came from insulin resistance. What I tell people with liver issues, with kidney issues, with all of that is you still want to address your insulin resistance. That root cause never got addressed. Now you're probably on dialysis and having some other issues. But with kidney failure and some heart issues, I would start with a half a packet of the Unimate, or this is what I like to tell people to do, is I mix this, if you have any of those issues, I mix this in about 40 ounces of water, split it up, and because it will store in the fridge, and then drink either half of it or a quarter of it a day until you feel like you tolerate it. If you have kidney failure, insulin resistance was likely a big part of that. So getting control of your insulin levels now is going to be really helpful to you. There are no side effects for this outside of that excess energy. We'll talk about that on another one. But that's what I would do. I would start out slow. I wouldn't do a whole packet at first. And if you want to talk to me and get some suggestions, not diagnosis or prescriptions, but some suggestions, I'm more than happy to have that talks with you, Alex. Okay, guys, I really got to run. I appreciate you all. And we'll see you Monday. I'm going to invite you to do what I do. I know everybody has different lifestyles, but this is the weekend. I'm going to spend some time with my grandson, who I happen to likely have very limited time with, some time with my son, who's going to be deployed in the next short while. And I'm just going to value my family. So although I'll work on editing some things over the weekend, I really try to focus on my family and put the rest of this away. I would love if you could do that too. One of the things with insulin resistance is stress. High cortisol levels and the lack of sleep are causing your insulin levels to rise alongside those sugar problems. So learn to get some sleep. Learn to get your your ooh-ah feeling in your heart taken care of. It will help regulate your insulin levels as well. We have to take care of our health in an overall picture, not just a quick fix, one and done thing. I didn't get to talk about the medications today. We'll talk about that another day. You guys, amazing, amazing time this morning. I love all the questions. I love all the interaction. I appreciate you for asking. It means that you're really invested in your health. And that's the whole purpose of me being on here every morning. Okay. Ugh. Okay, Rose Gold, we're going to talk about that because I was supposed to and we didn't. How would you know if you have insulin resistance? So go right now, go to the tab on how to tell, and that's going to give you some ways to tell if you have insulin resistance. I'll be doing another video on some symptoms of insulin resistance today. So those tabs will continue to fill out. Just go find the how to tell tab. That's going to give you at least 3 videos that tell you how you can tell. If you have more than 2 of those symptoms, it's probably you. Semaglutide, we started out this live with, you are not deficient in a medication. I'm going to say it loudly. I'm going to be a preacher on a pulpit right now. I hate those medications with a passion. I hate them because what they're doing is giving you a medication for something that's a dietary problem. Now, some doctors are going to be like, oh, stop spreading lies about this medication. Stop spreading. Why? I'm not spreading lies. I'm spreading, what we talk about. There's a lot of science backing behind it. But if you're not deficient in a medication, how is that going to fix the problem? And when you're doing semaglutide and all the, are you getting in the fibers you need? Are you getting in the nutrients you need? Are you fixing the dietary problem that got you there in the first place? No, you're not. Now you come off of semaglutides, GLP-1s, all of that. You're likely to rebound in your weight. You're likely to have some other issues afterwards. I've had so many people on here when they say it's a rare disorder. How come I have so many people come on and say they've had pancreatic disorders? They've had liver problems or kidney problems. They've had their thyroid shut down. They've had gastroparesis and their colon no longer works like it's supposed to after being on those drugs. That's my opinion. That's my stance. I do not like the drugs. I'm not a proponent of them. You're not fixing the root cause. You're going to go right back to where you were as soon as you stop the medications because you haven't fixed what's wrong. Maybe you lost some weight. Did you fix what you're putting in your face? Did you fix the fact that you're not getting sleep? Did you fix the fact that you're getting too much stress? Did you fix any of those things while you were on the medication? And if you didn't, you're just setting yourself up for failure. Stop doing Band-Aid fixes and start addressing the root cause. That's why I chose this. By the way, this tea naturally helps the receptors in your brain that those GLP-1s are trying to get to. So it helps the receptors in the brain getting energy so you're not hungry from the brain. It's helping receptors in the gut, telling you, allowing you to feel when you're full or not, so you're not having that excess hunger and it's not destroying your health. GLP-1 or a tea that I can drink every day that's giving me vitamins, minerals, and health back to my body, helping my brain function, helping my gut function, I'm going to do this because the GLP-1 is not doing that. That's my answer. Not mad at you. I'm so frustrated at how hard Big Pharma has been pushing those medications and just the knowledge I have on the back end of how all of this happens. I cannot be a proponent of those medications. I cannot. Okay. All right, you guys, we'll see you Monday. We're going to talk about fibromyalgia Monday. Ask me questions. Let me know what you need to know, and I will either do videos or do lives about it. The tea, you can find it in my profile link. You can either get the entire system, which is a tea in the morning that helps me with mental energy, clarity, satiety, helps me with kicking out ketones, does not spike my insulin during a fasted state, is helping me with a lot going on in my body. Has antioxidant, anti-cancer activities, anti-inflammatory activities in my body. I'm finishing up my hot one after this. I have a cold one already mixed up that I'll be sipping on the rest of the day. That's my primary drink for the day. And then I do the fiber that helps with my A1C, my blood glucose, my lipids, helps get them all normalized. Scientific studies behind both of these not just anecdotal studies, but scientific clinical studies that together they work to help give you energy and reduce your blood glucose, your lipids, and your A1C. So that's at, you get it in my profile. When you, by the way, when you get it through my profile, you get the 90-day money back guarantee. Amazon, eBay, Walmart, you don't get that. You get coaching from me, Amazon, eBay, Walmart, you don't get that. You get the quality guarantee, which means it's been triple tested before, during, and before it ships. You don't get that on Amazon, eBay, Walmart, and the low price guarantee. Everybody who's bought on Amazon, eBay, Walmart that's reached out to me has found that they paid way more for it than they would have had they just used my link in the first place. So, all right. And when you use my link, you'll notice that it takes you directly to the company website. I don't ship it to you, the company does. So it's always been in good hands. So there are about 5% of issues that can be caused, like viral things, genetic things that can cause high blood pressure. But for 95% of us, insulin resistance is it. And I had high blood pressure for years. I had multiple doctors working on my blood pressure. I was at risk of actually having my heart, what I say, this is inflammatory, right? But I felt like my heart was going to explode in the middle of the night and my kids were going to find me dead in the bed in the morning. That was my reality. My blood pressure now is 110/70 every single day. No medications. So if you want to know more about that, join me Monday and we'll talk about it. Guys, I'm going to go because I hung out way too long. Love you all. Thank you for hanging out with me. And I hope to see you Monday and get some more questions answered. Have a good day, everybody.